back to my channel and welcome if you're new here. My name is Melissa.
And my name is Ashton.
And our channel is called
One Mother's Journey.
Good job! So today I'm coming on to just talk about some frequently asked questions that I get. Questions and comments from people. I think the main one is, how do you do it? How do you survive the loss of a child? It's every parent's worst nightmare. And a lot of people just say that they wouldn't be able to survive. And to be very honest with you, some people don't survive. And, you know, all across my channel, I'm just going to talk about my personal experience. Everybody has different experiences. Every day, I just keep waking up. There have been a lot of times through this journey that I didn't think I was going to make it. You know, like when I found my daughter, passed away. This is Ashton. This is Carly's little boy, and I adopted him when we lost Carly. He was just 2 years old. Had a lot of trauma therapy to work through his trauma and his loss. And I adopted him in December of 2021. Yeah. He's a huge reason that I keep going. I feel like Carly probably needs me now more than she ever has or ever did in her life, her earthly life. Ashton was her entire world, as you can imagine. And she needs me to be here for him and to be good for him. To be the best that I can be for him. And it's not easy because I'm a grandma, and I started out as a grandma with this little guy, spoiling him rotten and giving him back to his mom. So it's been a bit of a transition going from the spoiling grandma into the parenting role. As you can imagine, they're very different.
Yeah, Jenny, you should have just stayed home in that time.
Yeah, Ashton is sad that his mommy passed away, and he feels like if I would have been home with her, which I actually was, but if I would have been with her that night, that I could have saved her. They were actually just across the hall from me in their own bedroom. Carly and Ashton did live with me. I have had several bouts of severe illness the past few years where I've been hospitalized. My body has definitely taken a huge hit from the emotional toll of losing Carly. And I have been able to come back from some of those health challenges, but I do have some long-term health issues now. You know, I gotta say honestly, the last few years, a lot of it has been a blur. And I think that sometimes with trauma, and again, can only speak for myself, but just going into, I don't know if it's robot mode or just autopilot, but doing what I know that I need to do to take care of Ashton and get through the day. And then at the end of the day, and at the beginning of each new day, it is just a horrible, horrible heartbreak, realizing that my youngest daughter is not here on this earth. Another thing just things that I have heard people say, let me back up. I think that a lot of times, maybe not all the time, but 99.9% of the time, people are trying to be helpful when they say certain things to their friends and family who are grieving. But a lot of the things that us grieving folks hear are not super helpful. And I'll just list a few. Time heals all wounds. Well, actually, no, time doesn't heal all wounds. And I can tell you that losing a child is more painful than you even imagine in your mind when you're a parent and you're holding your little newborn and you're raising them through their life, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I can't imagine losing my child. that feeling of fear that you get, that horrible sick feeling, it's a million times worse than that. And there's no amount of time that can heal this wound. And I would argue that there are many wounds that time cannot heal. Carly would not want me to be so sad. Well, I don't want Carly to be dead. So here we are. The other part of that may sound a little sassy, but that's what goes through my brain. The other part of that, though, is Carly and I were so close. We were truly very best friends. And I know that Carly gets it. Carly understands why I'm so upset. One thing that I heard shortly after Carly's funeral from someone who was close to me and actually who had known Carly since she was this big, he said to me, "Well, this too shall pass." And I don't think I've spoken to him since. That's just really dismissive. And grief, whether it's a child or your mom or your dad or your grief, knocks on everyone's door, okay? Let's just put that out there. It will come to you. If you live long enough, grief will visit your door. And it doesn't just pass. It's a lifelong sentence. You live with the sorrow and the missing and the longing of your person for the rest of your life. So it doesn't just pass. The worst thing that somebody told me was when I was in the hospital with sepsis in the ICU, and it was shortly after the first anniversary of Carly passing, sent me a message saying that I failed as a mother because I have a dead kid. And I have to say, that was hard. When you lose a child, as a parent, your number one job is to keep your child alive. And I don't know any parent who has lost a child. No matter how they lose their child, there is so much guilt. There is a tremendous amount of guilt. And so I'm already telling myself that. I already feel horribly guilty that I lost my child, and playing through my mind all of the different things I could have done differently, all of the different decisions I could have made, going back to as far back as I can remember to my childhood, thinking about if I would have gone here or done this or done that. If you know, you know, and I'm sorry that you know. But to have this person say that to me, I cried even more than I was already crying, which was a lot. Days and days and days. And one of my daughters finally intervened and just had enough of it and told that person off. And I have never heard from them again, thankfully. I never want to. Why am I on social media talking about this? One, of course, I've talked about just bringing awareness to fentanyl and the opioid crisis. I'm Gen X, and growing up, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, the mistakes that I made or that my generation made when we were kids or teenagers or young adults they were not so lethal. They could not just kill us in an instant. Whereas kids and young adults, and nowadays, one tiny decision can just end your life immediately. And fentanyl and opioid are the leading cause of death for adults between the ages of 18 and 45. And that's really scary. Just hundreds of thousands of young adults who are passing away from this and leaving children behind. I don't know the exact statistic off the top of my head because it's constantly changing when I look it up, about grandparents raising grandchildren. There are a lot of us out there, and I'm trying to build a community around that. If you're a grandparent raising your grandchild, it doesn't matter how you got there so much as that, we're kind of in a time of our lives where all of our children are grown up, and now we find ourselves in parenting roles again. I mean, like actively parenting little ones or teenagers, all different ages. And it's a huge adjustment, it's a huge transition, particularly when you are grieving. So you add the grief on top of it, and your grandchild or your grandchildren's grief and your family's grief. It's just a lot. It is a lot. I would not trade having Ashton for anything in the world. I adopted him. I spent all of my savings doing so. So this conversation is not about that. It's just to acknowledge that it's huge. It's a huge life change in a time of our lives when we're kind of supposed to be, I don't want to say slowing down, but that's not right. Having more freedom, traveling, seeing the world, not having to worry about getting a call from the school to come pick up a sick child. And just, talking about grief and loss in general, grieving the loss of a child is, and I don't even have words to put to how difficult and how hard this is. I am so sorry if you are watching this and you know how hard this is to lose a child. My heart goes out to you. And if you don't know, I hope that you never find out. But I also just want people to know who Carly is, who she was. I don't know, I have a hard time with the past tense because her spirit lives on. So that is why I'm here. Let me know in the comments if there's anything particularly about my journey that you want to know about, whether it's the adoption process or dealing with fentanyl or the whole police investigation that was a mess, or autopsies or toxicology reports. I'm going to be talking about all of that anyway, but if there's anything particularly that interests you, drop it in the comments and I will make that my next video. You are loved.